Okay, well, welcome to our first podcast. And for our first podcast, rather than it being me and someone else from the business, we've got Alan from CCH, who we've been doing a couple of videos with, and we've invited you down today just to run through a little bit about you, a little bit about us, why we started talking, and sort of what we're hoping to do moving forward. And obviously, I'm sure we mentioned it earlier, you know, the topic of an online platform is very prevalent now in the industry, and we're happy to answer any questions that you've got about that, even if they're really mean. So we'll go with it. So what we'll do at the start, I think, is if we just go back to a little bit about you, obviously, because we followed you for a while on YouTube, and obviously you've got a good name out there. You have a lot of followers. You do a lot of content, but YouTube's just one part of what you've done, isn't it? Really, you've done lots of things over your life, and obviously you've told us some of them. And I think it'd be good for people who are watching or listening to just hear about a little bit about your background, really.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me
No problem.
today. I've been a gas engineer for like over 30 years now. I started off as a plumber, as we were saying earlier about lead roofs and stuff. We did lead work and all that type of stuff. And then later on I moved and went to British Gas. So I worked at British Gas for quite a few years. And then I went into... I did some selling at British Gas, going out and quoting for new boilers and things like that, which were really good.
Were you plumbing at British Gas, or were you a gas engineer?
I was a gas engineer.
Doing breakdowns, installs, but direct to them?
So I've always done, back when I was an apprentice, worked at Leeds University, and we did gas work and boilers and all that type of stuff. So I've always done the gas side of it. I've never really done much plumbing. So if you ask me to do a bathroom and things like this, I won't have a clue. I don't know not about bathrooms. So I've always concentrated on boilers, plumbing, boilers, central heating and all that type of stuff. So I went to British Gas, brilliant at British Gas. I really liked it. I know these days, it gets a lot of negative press, but back in the day, I really enjoyed it at British Gas. I enjoyed going to see customers. I enjoyed, trying to do a good job. In them days, we tried to do a good job. And then I had an issue in my life in that my daughter got poorly. My daughter had cancer, and I had to leave. I had to stop working. So we spent 2 years really in and out of hospital with my daughter and things like this, and that took its toll. And from then, I needed to decide what I wanted to do in my life, really. So at the time, I wasn't very well mentally, obviously, with things that had happened, and I decided to set up and start working for myself, and that's what I did. I set up my own company. In that time, I started to do quite a lot of charity work. That's sort of like what drove me. The actual making money for me wasn't very important. It was more about doing what I could for charity, because obviously, it were close to my heart with my daughter, and and that's what I started to do. And then a little bit on my daughter. My daughter died. My daughter passed away, and that sort of drove me more then to do my charity stuff. And for a lot of years, I've concentrated more on doing charity stuff than I have anything else. And I've always tried to use different platforms to help the charity. So I used to have quad bikes back in the day, and we went from John O'Groats to Land's End on a quad bike for candlelighters, for children's cancer charity. And then went to Madrid and back on a quad bike. And I built a forum for quad bikes,
right?
Which then were really good for helping raise money for charity. So that was sort of what my focus was, and has been for a long, long time.
There's one charity that you've raised a lot of money for, which is it Candlelight? Is it?
It's Candlelighters, yeah. So that's the charity that helped us when we needed help. So we went from obviously having loads of money coming in from working, well, not loads of money, but money coming in,
yeah,
to more or less having nothing, from, having loads of cars and money and having, not enough money to buy tin of beans. We struggled, but Candlelight has helped, and they helped with stuff like holidays and stuff, like went to Primrose Valley, and it might sound quite a simple thing, but when you've got a daughter that's got cancer, you can't go on normal holidays because you might have to cancel at last minute.
So they were there for you, and they were helping.
So they were there for us, and they helped us, and they were there when we needed them. And I've always been a person in life that when people help you, you help them back. But I try and help people 10 times over that help me.
Yeah.
But I've sort of focused, that's sort of like in my blood and part of my life, really. And that's what I try and do continuously. And I have done since then. And I still do, today. In fact, I'm doing a charity install next week up in Scotland, which that's raised £18,000.
When you say charity install, what? Cause we've done a couple of bits over the years where we've donated, like, let's say a kit, or we've I don't know, raised some money for something in like something we've done internally. But it's quite difficult, isn't it? If you started to say we'll give a boiler, let's say Heatable, for example, said, right, well, we're going to give boilers out to people who are in need. It's difficult to do that, isn't it? Because it's difficult to give them out to people in need, but you're becoming a judge on who is deserving of the help, and that's something that we've not really sort of gone there because it's such a minefield to navigate. So how would you do when you say it's a charity install, what does that mean?
So how I started doing the installs was I would just quote a job for a customer. They would not know what were happening with regards to any of the monies.
Yeah.
And then I would pay for the boilers myself, and I would go and install the boiler, but then I would donate all the money to Candlelighters. And they wouldn't even know that I donated it. We had the bank details and we used to just donate it. That's how I started doing it.
So, okay, yeah. So you weren't installing a boiler for someone who couldn't afford to have a new boiler. You were taking the revenue from that sale and donating that revenue.
So that's how it started. Then we have done we did do one for somebody who was actually, they had a sick child they had dealings with Candlelighters. Yeah. So we did do an install for them. But mainly, I started out doing it where I were paying, which is you can't sustain that because I can't afford to keep paying for boilers. So I was cheeky, I thought I was cheeky at the time, and I messaged one of my reps, which were a Baxi rep, and I said, would you give me a boiler to do a charity install? And explained what I was going to do. I'd do the install and all the money done it. I'd pay the difference in pipe and fittings and my time, and then the money would get donated to Candlelighters. So it's not we're giving something away to somebody that might need it, or me being a judge and all that type of stuff. It's genuinely the money is going to charity, yeah. And it's genuinely going to really make a difference to families of children with cancer, and that's what that's what we've done. I've probably done maybe about 40 installs now. But what I've tried to do on the way is encourage other people to do it as well, or do other things to do with charity. So instead of it being in my name, because I'm not bothered about, for me, the goal is to raise money for Candlelighters and to raise money for charity and just do good, really, in general. And if somebody does it in their name, I'll still go and help and support what they do. So, for instance, this one that we're doing next week, it were a company called Oakwood Garden Rooms, and he said he'd do a raffle for Candlelighters. Yeah. So says, all right, well, if you do a raffle, somebody can win a boiler, and I'll go install it. So one of the guys, Daily Plumbing and Heating, he's supplied the boiler, which is a Viessmann boiler, and then we're going to go install it. So it's just we haven't even got any support from manufacturers with this one. We haven't asked for support because it's about, it's not about always taking from manufacturers.
And then that's how, so obviously to do those things, you had to be a gas engineer because you were installing the boilers, and then you had the company, which was CCH, which is, you still got now, haven't you? So that's Cheap Central Heating, is it?
It's just CCH these days.
Right.
It did start out. When I left British Gas, I started out as Cheap Central Heating. Yeah. And that was, I suppose it was the online boiler company of the day, which were cheap boilers, for customers at affordable prices, in volume.
Yeah.
You know, and that's we used to do 5 boilers a week, and we installed a lot of boilers. Tried as best to do best job we could with the price structure we were in, if you like. I won't be able to do that nowadays.
That's hard work for 5 boilers a week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just it's hard work.
Well, you obviously back, whenever that was, that like 15 years ago, was it 10 years ago?
Yeah.
So I mean, even then, there's always been a demand for. Our boiler is an inconvenient expense for most people, isn't it? There is some customers who sort of like plan it, and they'll look at their system and say it's inefficient. Probably more relevant now with gas prices and the cost of energy. But most people, it's a reactive purchase, isn't it? So the boiler's broke, we need a new one, or we fixed this one 4 or 5 times. We spent £500, £600, £700 on it. We need a new one, and it's interesting when whenever you meet people and you say, what do you do, whatever, and you say boilers, it's always a boring subject. But one thing I always think is interesting about it is that people never know what they cost. So you'll say, oh yeah, £5,000. I've been, my mate had one, it was £5,000, and my mate had one, it was £500, and my mate had one and it was £4,000. Ours was £2,000. So because it's such an infrequent purchase, no one knows what it sort of costs. So something that CCH did originally and something that we do now is that you sort of open up prices. It's like windows. People think I need new windows for my house, and they've heard the horror stories of 40k. Well, there'll be guys out there that are doing it for £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, or maybe even less for a full set of windows fitted. It's just there's a hood over the pricing, isn't there? And the online model lifts that hood, and we advertise to a customer that's just looking for a price point. The challenge for us is that we want to deliver that at cost where there's quality and there's support, and it's a long-standing solution for them. So it's interesting. You don't really install boilers anymore now, then, do you? Because you do your YouTube and
yeah. So going back to the cheap part of it, back in the day, my competitor really were the bigger companies such as British Gas.
Yeah.
So British Gas were naturally
a lot
expensive.
More expensive. Yeah.
And then mine were cheap. So it's not compared to. There's a lot more companies nowadays, and there's a lot more competition than there used to be. Nowadays, I try and my aim really. I'm getting to the back end of all this working and installing boilers. I won't be able to do that anymore. I won't be able to do 5 boilers a week anymore. I'm trying to be on a mission really to help raise standards in industry.
Yeah.
Show customers what they should expect when they get a gas engineer to come out as well. To try and do, if you look at the Worcester Bosch, people slip Worcester Bosch sometimes, but their marketing is amazing. What they've done is they've marketed to end user.
Yeah.
And they've shown the end user, buy Worcester Bosch boilers. Well, I'm sort of trying to do that a little bit with gas industry. Market it to end user. Show end user what they should expect when they get a gas engineer comes out. Yeah. And then if they do get something that's a lower quality, if they're not doing the best job, they'll know. They'll be able to question. And I have subscribers now sending me photos saying, we've had this boiler installed. What do you think to it? And then I'll help them in some cases, and get involved maybe sometimes when I shouldn't really, but I'll give them advice on that, and then they'll get the installers back. Yeah. And to me, you can look at that in a way that the installer's going to think, why is he doing that? Sticking his nose in. But on the other side to that, I would hope that would help that installer raise his standards.
Yeah.
And
because he's got a call back there, isn't he? It's like if he's had to go back to that job, time is money, isn't it? So he'll have probably materials that he's got to refit, which he may have to rebuy, but it's the time. And also for the customer, the customer's just looking for a solution. Like it's a hassle. It's already a hassle. Like the changing the board is a hassle. So making it more complicated, or when you've paid out, £2,000 or whatever the job cost is, it's a lot of cash. So if you're shelling out for it and you don't really want to do it and it's wrong, it's a problem.
And we all do things wrong. We all make mistakes, and it's just about how we can, do that better going forward. Learn from it.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what my YouTube is about. That I've also got off the back of that, I do have like a members section on my YouTube where people can pay, and I use that to add donations onto Candlelighters. So anybody who joins that, I actually match that donation up to £1,000, and then that gets donated to Candlelighters. I've also got a lot of people on my YouTube that say, "Oh, thank you very much. You've shown me how to top a boiler up. You've saved me a call out. Can I buy you a drink?" And then I put the link on for Candlelighters.
Grey Goose.
And it's a continuous revenue for Candlelighters. So when I was saying earlier about that, I've built platforms in the past to help Candlelighters and build that. I've now built a platform that hopefully I can earn some money from, because I still have to live and pay my bills and feed my kids.
It's a revenue now, isn't it? You do content, so it's a win-win really. Because like if you're a consumer that's learned from that, or you're an engineer that's learned something that you didn't know, like I think you mentioned the other day, like it's even put in boilers in service mode. You know, you might be an engineer, you've gone to a job, you're not familiar with the product, and you need to put it into service mode. You'll do a video on that, won't you, and say, this is how you do it, or this is how you wire up a new or a Viessmann or whatever it is. People learn from it, but also obviously you then get some benefit from it, which is that YouTube has ad revenue, and people like us obviously reach out to you and want to try and work with you and say, you know, we would like to raise some standards in our own business, our own network, the industry as a whole. And obviously, because you've got all these experiences, this is what sort of attracted us to you, and why we were trying to reach out early doors. We obviously did some videos, which most of them we were copying whatever keywords you were going for, we were trying to. Our videos are a bit different, I suppose. We talk about product, and we don't we don't make any money from YouTube or anything that we do. It's just brand awareness, and also, you know, because it's such a boring subject, but because it's a lot of money, customers are generally looking to making sure they're making the right decision. So we'll review products that we sell and products that we don't sell. We'll review thermostats. We'll talk about, you know, how do you identify what boiler you have? Do you have a system boiler, a combi boiler, a regular boiler? And then we've done a few, obviously Jack, who's here with us today, like, you know, he'll say, people are asking us all the time, how do I top my boiler up? Or I've got an F75 on a Valent, is it? Fault. So we'll do bits around that, because we have like a live chat feature on the website. I'd say, I don't know, 2 out of 10 people that are asking questions on there aren't looking to buy a boiler. They're just stuck. And we've talked a lot of people through topping their boiler up. Try this, reset is you press this and this to reset it, or you know, your radiator's cold, here's how you bleed it, you can get a bleed key from here. We talk them through, but it's quite time consuming, obviously, because it's a busy business and everyone's got an objective. If we create a video which has all those answers in and list it on the website, we won't get a sale from it, but it's good just to have out there. And who knows, you know, in the future that customer may need a new boiler and think, I saw that video, it's quite helpful, I'll check them out and get a quote from them. So we do, whereas YouTube is a business view now pretty much, isn't it? I think YouTube is like a marketing asset for us, but it's given us some common ground. We were mentioning earlier, it's funny, I said I do the videos for Heatable, and that was only because we just couldn't get anyone else to do it, because it's quite, you'd need to know a little bit about the product and the industry, and you know what it's like and what it costs, and you've got to be able to talk a little bit. I knew a little bit about the product and I was happy to talk on camera. For me, I don't like doing it.
I think on camera, you look like you're a natural. I mean, the reason we've even spoke is that I started to watch your videos, and I don't normally watch anybody else's videos to do with plumbing, because I'm my own person and do what I do. But your stuff, I just found, like when you did the Alpha one with the spaghetti, it's just funny. It's good, and it's and I think it's good that you are taking the time to do them videos.
I think it's interesting because like I would look at them and like, I know like my wife, for example, wouldn't watch them because she's like, you're just making a fool of yourself. And probably, you know, half the comments we get are like, what is this nonsense? I would look at your videos and say, I'd like to be like Allen on them. You know, he's definitely more knowledgeable. He's got, he speaks more directly to the customer. But it's just interesting, isn't it, how like people self-criticize. So I would look at our videos and say, I'm not that comfortable, and you would say, oh, I know, I'd like to be that confident. But it's just...
I'm not natural on camera at all. What with me, what I do is I just speak from the heart. So if somebody says to me to do a video, I won't be able to do it. If they have the structure, I mean, I've had companies come to me in the past say, you know, we'll pay you money to come and do videos for us, and they'll structure something they want me to do. I can't do it because I have to do from the heart and what I want to do when I want to do it. With my videos as well, is I look at things like I run quite a few groups for gas engineers, and I see the questions that gas engineers ask over and over again, which then give me a reason to do certain videos. So for instance, the backseat, one of the main reasons I did the videos to start with were people were asking the same questions over and over again about how to put a backseat into service mode. And to me, that's just easy and simple. And people are asking that over and over again. And this is gas engineers that are asking these questions. So that's what I did. I thought I'd do a video on it. And I used to just film my hands because I was so shy. And I did get quite a lot of negativity and a bit of trolling, and I was doing my charity stuff, and I did Pride of Britain, and I won Pride of Britain for my area, and I got quite a lot of negativity, and I suppose from that, I sort of thought to myself, well, you're going to get negative, whatever you do in life, people are going to try and, you know, we have this thing where people try and build people up, but when they build people up, then they try and knock them down, and then I just thought to myself, you know, just do what you're going to do. Video what you want to do. And people like it, they won't like it. You'll get people negative comments. Like on one of your videos the other day, we had a comment and it said, I can't remember what it said now, but your reaction from your media guy was, it's Tim and Roy Cropper or something like this. And it was just good to actually sort of like respond back to that negativity in a positive way. You know,
we get a lot. I mean, we get sort of hate from a couple of different people. You get customers who are frustrated that if we do a video, and sometimes it's a bit silly because, I don't know, we're just trying to entertain ourselves half the time, and they don't like it. Some of them love it. But we get gas engineers, obviously, we're not the favourite of a gas engineer generally, and so they're always looking to try and knock you over and, you know, correct you and say, I think someone said the other day, like, that guy knows nothing about boilers, you know, and it's like, well, actually, I'm not actually a gas engineer. You know, I only know what I know about boilers because I've been in this industry for a reasonable amount of time. I don't have my gas, I don't have my axe or anything like that. I just understand how they work from an engineering perspective, can appreciate them, and I'll sit with 7 gas engineers all day, every day, and listen to the conversations. And a bit like you did with a video, you know, if someone's asking the same question in the office all the time, I'm curious, you know, why is that? What's going on? Or engineers are ringing up asking X, Y, or Z. Or one of the challenges, obviously, is quality. So we have an audit system. We have 2 of the guys who just audit the jobs day in, day out, and they might bring in up the same issues all the time. Which is one of the original reasons we reached out, was to say, look, you know, we want to improve the standard, and we want to improve the overall quality of a submission to us, but also for the market as well. And it's quite difficult because obviously the guys that work for us and work with us are all generally on side because we work together and we keep them busy and they do good jobs for us, and we come across issues and we both look to resolve it. But people who don't work for us, or maybe have come up against us in a job, don't like us. The boiler market in the UK is around 1 million units a year. And if you take out the contract stuff like new build and social, I think it's about 700,000 units. There's enough boilers to go around. The amount of boilers that we do is such a small percentage of the actual market share. The biggest the biggest occupiers of space in this market are one-man guys or small businesses, and they are for manufacturers too. So, you know, people think we get boilers for nothing, or we get or everything for free, or we get, you know, this amazing package on all this on these products. But we represent such a minority of that manufacturer's basket that they just don't do that. There's just a real misconception around, I think anyway, obviously, that, you know, that how we're viewed, or how we operate as a business. People don't understand how we do the fixed pricing, for example, or people don't understand how we pay the engineers. Some people think it's a great living, and some people don't think it's a great living. So I mean, it's interesting, obviously, just to get your thoughts, because we haven't really discussed this that much. And when we were talking before about what do you want to chat about today, it was just like, well, we'll just have an open chat about it, you know, where we are as a business, and maybe you can ask us some questions. And I'm not particularly fussed if they're quite damning questions or difficult questions to answer, because it is what it is, sort of thing, you know what I mean? So have you had any sort of flack or hate for doing a video of us originally over that Viessmann 050 and the Alpha E-Tec, or what was your opinion even prior to that?
So my opinion, so I had a number of online companies contact me and ask me to do things with them.
Yeah.
And I've had meetings with a few different online companies, and you know, I sort of chose you guys over some others, because I liked what you were doing online. I liked some of your videos, and I thought that you seemed like you were engaging with the audience, and you sort of putting yourself out there, you know, for criticism as well.
Yeah.
And I feel that between us, that maybe we could help raise the standards in the industry.
So one of the elements of criticism we get as a business is when you submit a job to us as a contractor, we ask for quite a lot of stuff. So we want photos of everything. We want some information about the electrical connections, the gas connections, the pressures. You know, we want to see where the flue run is. Is it clipped? Where does it terminate? Where does the condenser come out of the boiler? Where does it terminate? And it takes a bit of time to submit a job. But the purpose of that is that we have a team here that audit those jobs. And lots of things that I learned when I was doing this contracting business, where guys would cut corners, we've built in to try and combat. Now, we still have to physically survey jobs, because you can't just rely on 100% desktop audits. But if you submit a job to us with the right photos and we can have a look at it, you get a general feel for, you can look at a job, I think personally, and get an understanding for the care and attention that's gone into that job. And then you look at the readings, and the system runs reports like, if everyone's putting 21 millibars of working pressure, or 21 standing, sorry, and you know, 20 working or whatever it is, we can run a theme on the system and say, it's funny, this guy does every single boiler, he gets the same working pressure every time, and he writes the same results on all of his analyzer readings. So we know he's blagging them. And then we have to go and physically audit that guy, and that's quite expensive to do. But there's two sides for it to us. There's an attitude test in terms of your approach to the industry, you know, to us and our customers. And then there's the quality of the install. And there is only a certain number of guys that meet that criteria for us. And we have absolutely been done in the past with, I'm sure it's happening right now, where there'll be an undergas boiler that we've got to go and rectify. There'll be a condense that looks like it's going through the wall at the right size, and it's insulated or whatever, and it's not, and it's a photo from a previous job or whatever it could be. But it is the minority. If we didn't do the checks that we did and didn't have the software that we have, I think we would be open to abuse.
How can you prove that, like things like water quality? Because obviously that's going to be hard.
It's hard to prove. So there's a couple of things we do to combat that. One of them is about half of the jobs go out with, and we got a lot of stick for this, because you had that filter, didn't you? And you were like, what's this? It's a gimmick. It's the AD Pro free filter. So it's only checking for magnetite, essentially. It's not checking for presence of chemical. But if you install the boiler for us and that filter goes on and straight away it goes to red, well, we know there's either an inherent issue with the system, which if there was, you should have called us and said, I'm on this job today, the water's really bad, what do we want to do? And we'll make a decision as a business. Or you've not done the basic flush. So that's a good audit tool. It's expensive, but it's a good audit tool. Also, what we do is we do AD Pro checks on when we do a Magna Cleanse, or we call it Pro Flush. So it's either a power flush or a Magna Cleanse, depending on what the contractor has. They have to do an AD Pro check. And that does do a presence of chemicals and a presence of oxidants and all the rest of it. So we get a result from that. The acid test for us is manufacturer call-outs. We work really, really closely with manufacturers. And if you spoke to any of the manufacturers that we deal with, one of the first questions we always ask is, what's our failure rate? What's our quality? Do we have any inherent quality issues? Is there a theme in your business that they're always going out to our jobs, or whatever it could be? And ultimately, the biggest test is that first year service. So, our customer have the boiler installed by us, and they have an A engineer turns up and he looks at the job and goes, no, this is a nightmare. The water's filthy, the condense is wrong, it's undergassed, or whatever it is. We offer a 12-month workmanship warranty on the boiler for anything that goes wrong. So it could have a leak, something starts dripping. To do with the install, the boiler has its own warranty. But if it was installed incorrectly in the first instance, and it's 16 months before it gets found out, and it's undergassed and it's our fault, it's our fault. And we just have to put it right. So there's lots of things to combat it. But some jobs do slip through. For us, it's less than 1% that we have an issue with in terms of a submission is raised. We'll raise a recall for that. We call it a recall. I'll have to show you on the system, but essentially it goes out to that engineer and says, like a Viessmann, for example, they always screw the flues because there's a pre.
Because there's an all in that already.
There's a pre, and everyone's used to securing flues, but with Viessmann don't allow it. It's a big one. For us, on a first install, we sort of say, look, go back, we'll supply you with a flue, because you can't obviously just take the screw out, and we'll deal with it. If it happened after that, we'd say, you've got to supply a flue, and you've got to go back and correct it. Where we struggle as a business with the contractors is, you've installed the boiler, it's got a leak, customers rang up, it's leaking onto the worktop. Today's Thursday? Yeah, Thursday today. I can't go till Tuesday. It's not good enough for us, that. We've got to get someone there because we're dealing with the customer. So what we'll say to that engineer is, right, well, we can send someone else, but obviously they're going to have to charge and we have to deduct that money from you. Or can you just go?
How do you sort of manage the quality of the installers that you get? Because for me, I'm seeing as when I worked at British Gas, and I used to go to British Gas jobs. British Gas jobs back then used to be nearly always they complied, they were a good quality install. But when I seen other jobs out in the industry, there wasn't quite as good. Nowadays, I tend to see nearly all jobs that I go to, there's something that doesn't comply. So how do you manage to get installers that are better than the norm, if you like?
It's difficult. I mean, what we have is we have a sign-up process for an engineer, but that's just a paperwork exercise. We need your insurance, we need your gas card, we need your analyzer, calibration cert, and all the rest of it. We need to know where you work, what postcodes you do. Then we'll have one of the gas engineers has to ring them, and the gas engineer will have a conversation with them and ask them some basic questions. And depending on, again, it's in the system, there's basically a funnel process. So depending on what the answer is to a question, it fires you on to another one. And if they answer all the questions right, then we say, okay, we'll have an attitude test. So, this is how it works. These are the rates. This would happen on site. Would you be okay if that happened and you had to do X, Y, or Z? And then ultimately, that contractor then does a job. What we do at the start is they do one job and we inspect it. So they'll do this.
So you physically go out and inspect it?
Yeah, like, to be, not every single one of them, but if the submission comes in and we're concerned, what we'll do is we'll get another engineer who works in that area, and the guys obviously watching this now who work for us will have done this, and we'll say, can you just drop into SW13 postcode for us? We'll pay you whatever, 160 quid or 100 quid, whatever it is. Just go and check it, do the pressure test, have a quick look and make sure you're happy. Some of them, they submit the job and we go, it's decent, but it's got this, and this issue with it. And we'll contact that engineer and we'll say, this has been raised as an issue. And then the acid test again then is how they respond to that. So I'm not going back to that. No, you didn't give me this, so I'm not doing that. Or if the attitude was, yeah, okay, I understand, I'll go back, I'll get it fixed, they submit it. And then we have like a marker system. So again, because we have technology, there's a tiering system in there as well. So when new jobs come in, it goes on a tiering basis, and then you can mark an engineer and say, we want to do a physical audit on the next inspection. Ultimately for us, whilst there's an inherent risk there, essentially, because there is, we'll always put it right. So if someone did an install and we weren't happy with it, we would send an alternative engineer who we know is good, and they would go and fix it.
So what would be the benefit to an engineer coming and working for you if you're going to be more critical, if you like, than some maybe other online companies?
Well, I'd rather they didn't work for us. So I think if you were concerned about the quality, if you were thinking, do you know what, they're a pain in the arse, I could get away with a lesser standard elsewhere, I'm all right with that. I think what we want is, we want guys to be able to stand back from their job and say, I'd put that on gas. Well, I mean, you probably won't put it on gas chat, but I'd show someone that and be happy and be proud or whatever. Or I'm happy to submit that to these guys. And ultimately for us, we're not looking at a job and going, that clip there, it's not been, your tell-on clip, it's not been closed over. Sorry, you're not getting paid. It's not about that. It's, you've got this issue. Can you go and resolve it? And then 99% of the guys go and resolve it. Because for me, personally, I think it's good money. I mean, one of the issues we have as a business is we employ gas engineers in the office and they know what the guys are getting. So if you're fitting 4-5 a week, it's 80, 90 grand a year, and you've got none of the stress. We're buying the kit, we're introducing it to the customer, we're registering the warranty, we're dealing with the payment. We've even got auto billing now on the application. You don't even need to invoice us. So if you're a good boy and play by the rules, which 90% of them do, there are no issues. But it is a challenge.
I do see a real benefit in the online. Hence the reason I'm here, because you can sort of control. There's going to be good and bad engineers in market. Customers can get a good or bad engineer, but you've got a little bit more control over that. Yeah. Because you can drop people that maybe don't do the better jobs. One of the challenges for me when I were doing installing were customers. So going out and quoting on a night and on a weekend and on a Sunday, because you've still got to fill the book for the week ahead or whatever it might be. So I suppose that you help quite a lot with that, because
it cuts it out. I mean, I used
to do that.
No. I mean, I said before this, I had a small-ish M&E company, and it was I ended up doing commercial in the end, or contract work, because I would go and quote jobs, and I was either using as a pricing tool for customers. Some customers were just curious. Some customers were serious but wanted to pay £900. And at the time I had two young, well, they are still young now, but they were babies at the time, and I was going out at night quoting and doing all this and winning 1 in 3, 1 in 4 maybe, depending. And it was tiresome, and I just got sick of it. So the benefit of the Heatable model, or others that are out there, so not just Heatable, is that if you're an engineer, you can set some dates that you're free, and jobs may or may not come in on those dates, but if they do, you just click yes, and the customer's there for you. The kit's ordered. Someone's looked at the job. Someone said that needs a plume kit, that needs this, that needs that. You've not got to do a payment with the customer. You do it, you submit it, and then it's on an auto bill run and you get paid the following Friday.
So I've got a question for you, really. So I see online boiler companies as companies that are here today, gone tomorrow. So they're going to flip and sell out or whatever. Is Heatable? Is that what you plan to do? What's the plan with that?
We've got no intention to sell it. Our model is a little bit different to the others in that we originally started off as a lead generation platform. So we'll do another podcast on like how it started and why it changed and all the rest of it. But we were lead generators, and we came from a background of all of our businesses that we have, which I mentioned before. We've had those for like 10, and I've been self-employed since I was like 18. So, and the original business we started when we were 18, we still have now.
Yeah.
So it's a long-standing thing for us. We've always made this pay in terms of we've had great technology, we've had great people, we've been mindful of cost, and we've had a long view on things. So, for example, I think if you're one of them companies that was going to be here today, gone tomorrow sort of thing, you can have quite aggressive sales tactics. Maybe you're not bothered about quality because it's not going to be your problem, is it? Like if these all start coming back in 3 or 4 years, you're gone. You're not here. And I think one of the differences for us as well is that we're self-funded. So
I have seen like some of the other online companies are in lots and lots of debt.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that they've got a good business model.
I think people have got different long-term plans. Like some people, we were fortunate because we had the customers. So the biggest cost, like everyone, like all these models, all these online platforms, they're all trading at about the same package margin because a manufacturer will, give you an agreement. You'll buy for a cost. Your labour is relatively static. The difference where you make money or not is in the efficiency of the model. So we are a very efficient business in terms of technology. And also, it's the acquisition cost of the customer. So you can buy customers. Like you can buy a deal relatively easy, but it's very expensive. We don't do that. And we're just playing a slightly different game. Some of them have said we need to be big, quick, and like anything, if you were I always think like, we built some houses a while ago and it was like, you can get a quote to build the house and you can have 50 men on it over a period of 10 weeks and it's dead inefficient, but it gets built, but it costs a lot of money. Or if you plan it out and you build it over a year and you manage the costs, you'll do it for a lot less and probably end up with a better product. And that's just our model. I think, we could quite easily raise money for this business. It would be relatively easy to do. But I think one of the obstacles would be we'd want to maintain that quality and maintain the long-term goal. And I think the pressures of returning results for investors isn't something at the moment that we're that sort of keen on. And I think also as well, it's cost us an absolute packet to get where we are now, but it has all been self-funded. So our group business, which is family business, 3 brothers and my dad, we've all invested in this. And even to the degree, obviously, we're in the building now, so you couldn't see it today. Like, we've bought the building.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very appreciated. It literally, we were laughing before because it's costing us a lot of money to just do stuff, isn't it? And but we've bought that because we want to be here for a long time, and we're moving other businesses into it that we operate, but we need somewhere to grow into. I think if we were going to be like here today, gone tomorrow, we'd just be renting a suite somewhere, and it would be, we can flash up and flash away in a second. There's no problems at all. But here, we've bought this, spent a lot of money on it. Obviously, I know it's a bit messy in here now because we're in the middle of a refurb, but we're fitting it out so we can grow to our goal, which is coming up in 2024 to get to a certain size. We'll have enough space and enough people, enough resource to do that.
We've spoken quite a bit off camera about raising the standards in the industry and quality and things like that. What can Heatable do to help with that? And obviously I'm on a little bit of a mission to speak with and deal and work with people like yourself to do that. So what do you think we can do to...
I think it's like everything, it's a long game process, isn't it, in terms of, I think initially we should look at how because these online platforms are growing at a rate of knots, you know, I mean, a new one's popping up every day, and, you know, customers are becoming aware they can buy a boiler online. So ultimately the platform base of engineers is going to grow. So a good place to start for us would be setting up a standard and deploying that across our network. And ultimately, you know, by proxy, engineers that work for us and work for another platform should carry a better standard into that platform as well. And the customer benefits, and so does the engineer. So we could start there. We wanted to do some stuff. Obviously, there's lots of things coming down the road, like heat pumps, hydrogen, green technologies and renewables and everything else.
PV panels for your roof.
PV, yeah, we are going to put PV on here, yeah. I get a big fat loan for that. We want to look at that. We want to work with manufacturers. We'd like to set up a training sort of, not a syllabus, but like a training plan that would help address some of the big issues, like all the ones that are easily fixed, like, you know, condense. There's obviously, you're into your regs, aren't you? So like, and like a lot of like, there's always a bulletin about insulating a condense or going through the wall and insulated or whatever it is, and what you can use outside. Like, I think we mentioned early doors, didn't we? About, you said to us, what do you do for your condense?
And the problem with that as well is there's different manufacturers ask for different things, so
which is a challenge.
Which is definitely a challenge. But going back to the condensate side of it, I actually went to one of my jobs that we installed with a Worcester Bosch probably about 12 years or so ago, and it actually still complied to the current standards. It was insulated, had a trace heater on it, and at the time we'd put protection over it, so that it didn't freeze, and it's never frozen up. And a lot of the installers now, I mean, I get quite a lot of grief and negativity because I'm trying to raise the standards and show that we should be insulating condensates when required by the manufacturer. But it's not a new thing. There is some things that have changed, but we've had to do them for a long time.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just not commonly done in the market, isn't it? And I think it's like, again, for us, you know, we're not a perfect business. There's stuff when you'll look at and go, I mean, I think you should improve that, and there might be a logistical reason or a practical reason why we navigate it in a certain way, or we deal with a manufacturer, or we have an agreement or whatever. But ultimately for us, we just do want to raise that standard. So whatever the plan is going to be, we're happy to pump money into it of our own cash to try and help improve the standard. And we have a great relationship with suppliers and manufacturers. So they're all keen to work with us, and they're all keen to engage and help support any plans that we've got. So we can have access to their centres. One of the things we're going to do, granted it's only in one position or one place in the UK, but obviously this building's absolutely massive and it's got all these rooms that are empty. We want to build out a training room and a bit of an onboarding room for the north, and then we're going to have one in the south and one in Scotland where you can just, and Wales, you can just come down and meet us, have a look at some of the products. We can show you some example systems. We can show you like what we see. Obviously, at the moment, if you're an engineer, you don't know what we do in the background, do you? Like in terms of how we're scoring that job. Well, we need to be transparent with that. So we help engineers understand what we're looking to try and get to.
I think a common thing as well is an engineer will say, well, I've never had a problem with that, but they only see what they see. They see their own little tunnel. So for instance, if they live somewhere and they've done condensates in one way or whatever, they've never had a problem, or they might not even go back to some of them customers that have had that problem. Whereas hopefully you'll be able to see a broader picture with that. You can see lots of different jobs, lots of different installers, lots of different
This is the bit that
standards.
we see. Like, we're like, we see jobs day in, day out. Like, I know what a bad one looks like. You know, this is, you know, we might score 70 jobs a day, and look at them and go, right, yeah, that's good. Right, that's a clanger. Let's get it addressed. And it is true about the regional thing. Like, we get a lot of guys like in Cornwall where they still put 21.5 through the wall and have it outside. They're like, don't freeze down here, mate. And it's like, I know, but it's the standard.
And there's some manufacturers that still allow that. And this is the issue, because especially some of the smaller manufacturers, their installation instructions are not always the best.
Going from Europe generally, haven't they, as well?
Yeah,
and they get
translated. Yeah, I mean, Viessmann used to be terrible, because you used to get, like, if you went to do a circuit board on a Viessmann, you'd get it in German. It's like, how do I set this up? So installation instructions are not always the best. I mean, companies like Worcester and Ideal are
pretty
probably
comprehensive.
They're the better ones.
I think Viessmann as well is like they rely on the place where we're trying to get to, which is they rely on an engineer who's totally got it. Like, you can use third-party fluids with Viessmann, and like you can interchange and all sorts of stuff, because they assume, rightly so, and I'm sure it is the case in 99% of the case at the time, the guys know what they're doing, and that if it set up right, it can have that third-party flue, or if they feel the condense. Viessmann just, like, I think a lot of them, like, they'll leave things open to interpretation, so they'll say, well, as long as you're comfortable with it. But what we don't want as a business is that coming back to us. So I think it'd be really good. Obviously, we'd love to keep working with you and doing some more stuff and doing some more videos. And if anyone's got any questions they'd like to ask Alan, or they'd like to ask us, or you want some further information, or you want to just be mean, then I think this will be on YouTube, won't it, Jack? Yeah. So you can comment on YouTube, or you can directly inbox us and abuse us there. That'd be great. Really makes Jack's night. And we can answer any questions. Or if you've got a topic maybe you want answering.
I've just got one last question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Rates.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you'd like to go into? Would you? Are you happy to discuss that?
Yeah. I mean, there is a rate card, which essentially is, we work on a price basis. So we don't pay for time, we pay for price. To give you an idea, the minimum you can earn from doing a swap, so a combi, a reg, or a system boiler with a horizontal flue that didn't need a gas run, would be 400 quid plus VAT, no CIS deductions. What we say out of that is £25 is for like sundries. So we'll supply like a length of each, the fittings, the boiler, the filling loop, the flue, the chemicals, the filter, the controller. You would have to supply like some flex, some wall plugs, some condensed plastics. If you go over 25 quid, you can just countercharge it. So if you end up using a condensed pump or a soak away, or you use 10 lengths of overflow, whatever it is, then you can, you shouldn't be doing that, should you? But if you do, like making a sculpture, you can counter bill us for that. And then the rate goes up. So there's like, if you do a vertical flue, we pay £75. If you do a conversion, it's a different rate. If you do a back boiler, it's a different rate. If you fit accessories, it's a different rate. But there's a full rate card. When I mentioned earlier about what you can earn as an engineer on Heatable, that was based just basically on a rough sum of most guys who work for us. You've got two different types of engineers. You've got guys who work for us like 5 days a week, and that's all they want to do. They don't always get 5 days though, because we don't employ them. It's an open diary and they'll have their own stuff on. Most guys work for multiple platforms as well, so they'll be working for them 2 or 3 days and us 3. But if you did 4...
So what do they normally do with that then? Do they just open the diary up for everybody, and whoever comes in first, they accept a job with that platform? Pretty
much. As an example, our software, so I'm just doing a quick calculation to make sure I'm not lying here, yeah. Our software is real time. Okay, so what a lot of other online platforms do is they don't have real time software. You don't set availability. It's just like a sign up process to say, can you go and do this now? Ours is a bit like Deliveroo, I suppose, or like Uber or whatever, where you say when you're free and when you're not free. If, let's just say you were the only contractor which you wouldn't be, but if you were the only contractor that worked for us in LE5, Okay. And you went on the Heatable website now and you saw that today's Thursday, the soonest day is Wednesday next week. If you turned on Monday on your diary, that would appear on the website. So you can influence the amount of customers that come through the site, because ultimately what Heatable is there for is to say, we'll be there tomorrow, we'll be there on Monday, as soon as we can be there, we'll be there. If you set no availability, you're not going to get a job. One of the obstacles is people say, brand new to this platform, they'll set Thursday, Friday next week, it gets to Monday and they get nothing, and they're like, well, I can't work like that, mate. I need to book something in. It's not a guarantee you're going to get work. What you'll generally find, which takes a little bit of courage, is that most of our installs come like next day, the day after. So there was a guy, actually, he's a really nice guy, called Minjit. Hello, Minjit. And he rang up on, I think it was Friday, and he was like, I've got nothing in for next week. What am I going to do? You know, what's going on? Are you quiet? And we were like, no, it's absolutely mental. Don't worry. And literally, I looked at his diary yesterday and he's booked up, I think, for 4 days this week. But you've just got to wait for that last minute. I appreciate it's really difficult because it doesn't suit anyone. Like if you're a busy one-man band or a small business that you've got work booked in, you need to be booked up for 2 weeks at a time. There's no point working for a platform like Heatable.
What about a last minute? If a job came in for that, can they take themselves off the diary?
Take it off, yeah. So we say we penalise for it. We don't early days. If you constantly set availability and never take a job, like we'll just get rid of you. Like it's pointless. But if you set availability and you take 60% of them, 70% of them, it's fine. It's no problem at all. We appreciate you've got to get work every day, haven't you? We haven't got to, but you're supposed to be getting work every day. You're self-employed, so you ain't getting paid unless you're working. So if nothing comes in for us and you take a job locally or off another platform, it's fine. If we didn't get there first, we didn't get there first. What we don't like is guys that just say, I'm free all the time. And then they'll pick and choose which ones they want to do. Because going back to that availability in the LE postcode, that customer thinks, well, I can come Monday. Now, we've always got guys in the background that we can ring, and the odds of us moving the job are low, you know what I mean? There's a lot of guys working for us and they're loyal. But it's not really fair if someone's occupying real estate on that diary with no intention of doing work. So it's a difficult balance, and I don't think it works for everyone. Some guys, like some of the best guys we've got, were really good businesses locally, just got fed up of it, and they're doing. I did the calculation before. There's a guy around here actually, and he's worked for us since the start, and he had quite a big business, but he's just gone on his own. He does 3 a week, so it's 62,400 a year if he worked every week of the year. But he probably doesn't. Probably works. You might net 55k if they were all combis, but they're not all combis, are they? There's going to be some conversions, there's going to be some vertical flues. So most guys are probably walking like him there. I don't know what his actual, I'm not going to disclose his earnings or who he is, but he's probably getting 65k a year for text messages. He's got no aftercare issues, he's got no collecting payments, he's on auto billing. We're all sound, sort of a winner.
What about the more complicated jobs then, where customers want new radiators or they want unvented cylinders or things like this? We
don't do them. So we're just looking for it's swapping out a broken boiler for a new boiler. We do TRVs, and we do we might change an odd radiator or something like that, but it's primarily swaps. Just on those rates, this is what grinds my gears personally, and I have a big issue with, and we do get rid of guys for is, we'll get a guy ring up and he'll be on a let's say he's got 3 jobs in the week. He's got 3 combis, let's just say. One of them is a really old square flued combi, like the old Valent 2-door things. Yeah. And it's on 15mm gas. Condenser's a nightmare. The walls fall into bits, and it's just a shit show. And the other 2 are just condensing combi swaps, or relatively straightforward combi swaps on 22mm gas. They'll ring up we won't hear from them on the first 2 because they were nice and easy and they were back for 1 o'clock. But on the third one, they'll ring up and go, I want 500 quid for this. And it's like, why? Oh, because it needs X, Y, or Z. But your rate card is your rate card. So if you've got to do a condense, you've got to do a condense. If the gas run is due for payment, it's due for payment. But you can't just ring up and argue and say you want a load more cash. Because then on that same notion, we'd look at your diary and go, if I look at your job on Monday, so Worcester coming out, or Worcester going in, condensing on 22, so does 150 quid sound all right? Like, we don't do that. It's give and take.
Yeah.
And the worst experience you'll have is the first job you do for us is a nightmare, and you think, oh my God, they're all going to be like this. And what's important for an engineer to know is that we weather that cost for that customer. So this is something that really annoys one-man bands is, let's say you've lost a quote to us, which I doubt many people are losing quotes to us, but if they are, because you know it needs 10 fluid extensions, a condense pump, it needs a 20 metre gas running 28mm copper, and it needs a standoff frame. And that customer buys an Alpha off us for 1,675 quid, and we lose 500 quid. We lose 500 quid.
I'm guilty of that, because I've actually gone to jobs and I've says, I think you should choose Heatable. Go online, and because the job's too awkward.
Yeah.
Gas is a nightmare, and flu's a nightmare. You best to go to them. It's going to be half the price that I can do it.
And
because,
and like for us, people look at that and think, you must be getting a boiler for free. You're trying to ruin me. You're trying to put me under. It's not. What's the cost of quoting 5 jobs? When I used to be a one-man, not one-man, but when I had a small business, what's the cost of me quoting 5 jobs to win one? If you said you wanted 40 quid an hour as a plumber, I don't know, let's just say you do, or gas engineer, 5 fours, 200 quid to go and quote jobs, right? And you win one of them. So that job's cost you, an acquisition cost 200 quid. Plus, you're probably on Facebook. You probably had an advert in the yellow pages, or you're on Rated People or whatever. You got diesel driving round. We don't have those costs, so we just aggregate it. So like, there was one, Pat, the installation manager, came out today. He was like, I've done a job today. We've lost like 2.5 grand on it, and it's like, it's all right. It doesn't matter. If anything, Sam and I absolutely love them, because the customers had a real win.
So any plumbers that are watching, you want them to send you all them bad jobs?
Oh, if you want to send them in, yeah. I mean, not too many. No, but they can, because, we'll have guys who fit them, who'll turn up to them and go, oh, gosh, look at the state of this. But they've had 3 other jobs that have been fine. And that's just something that guys need to be aware of if they do want to work for a platform. You can't ring up on a bad one and say, I want more money, and keep your mouth shut on a good one. It doesn't work like that. We will never, ever ring someone and say, that job's easy, we're only giving you 200 quid. But likewise, we don't expect people to ring us and say, this is a shit job, it's going to take me 2 days, I want double bubble. Now, some guys won't be able to compute that, but it's just the way that it is. And the odds of them happening to you all the time are slim, because if it did and they were all mega complicated and a nightmare job, we would be out of business.
And I think as time goes on, there'll be less and less of them more complicated jobs as well, because balanced fluid and open fluid. And
most jobs, the combi is going out. I mean, 75% of the jobs we do, I think, are combi. I can't remember the numbers, but it's probably somewhere around there. A combi swaps. The odds of it needing a gas run are low, and the odds of it needing a condense upgrade are 50-50. But it's normally just upgrade to, a larger bore or whatever it is, or going to a pump, or it needs insulating or whatever it could be. It's just part of the game, that. But if someone wants to know more about the rates and wants to understand it, then we can. If you contact us, and speak to one of the guys, they'll talk you through it. Maybe ask on Gas Chat about it. I always find when I look at Gas Chat, all the guys that complain, I've never worked for a platform, or even more interestingly, some of the ones that slag us off work for us, and not because they don't like us, but because they want to try and protect it a little bit. Or they've worked for us and they've left us because we had a disagreement or whatever it is. But it's
you can't win them all, can you? Either way, so
you can't win them all. And I think overridingly, if there was a survey of the contractors that work for us, 95% of them would say, I like it. And I know 95% of them come back for more, so they must. And it is good money. I know that's... People always say, I get £1,000 a day for a plumber. Well, that's fine. We're not competing for the same customers, because our customers don't pay £5,000 for combi boilers. And out of a deal like that there, there's more money in the fit rate for the engineer than there is for us. We're not making 400 quid on that. Like, we're giving more to the guy, you know what I mean? But it is what it is. Just again, the cost of acquiring the customer, dealing with all the costs. These are things that people just don't have any appreciation with. But we can discuss that. I can do a more in-depth thing on rates and maybe get one of the guys like Pat or Ben or to come down and just sit in on it and discuss. You know, this is what it looks like. And every gas engineer that we've got that works here has been an install engineer out there on the road, so they know they're on a good deal, you know. But yeah, I'm sure I'll get berated for that as well, but it is what it is. Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much, what time are we on there?
Just under an hour and a half.
Told you.
Wow.
We said before we came on, I said it'll be about an hour, I reckon, but
Time flies when you're having fun.
yeah, and I'm having fun.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And
I'm glad you came down. So just come see the place, see the setup, and you know, I appreciate it's a bit dangerous for you because you might get a bit of a stick for it, but just wanted to show you who we are and what we do. I'm
sure that I will, and I think also it's a bit dangerous for yourself as a company, like leaving yourself open to criticism.
Yeah.
So I think it's, you know, I feel that it's good that we're aiming towards raising the standards in different ways, but
yeah, but exactly, coming at it from different angles, but ultimately we need to raise standards to reduce liability, and we want to do it just because it's an industry we operate in and care about, and you want to do it because it's a passion and a mission of yours, isn't it? So there will definitely be some areas where we can work on it together and improve it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking at comments I'm going to get on Gas Chat and places.
Yeah, have a go at Alan, not me. I've had a bad week this week.
What were we called? We were called the other day. I can't remember. Yeah,
it was Ian Beale and Phil Mitchell.
Ian Beale and Phil Mitchell.
On a flog and Alpha.
That's quite good. I like that actually.
Actually, I prefer Tim Metcalf and Roy Cropper.
You're Roy Cropper.
Oh right, okay. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, we'll take a bit of abuse. I'm all right with that. As long as it doesn't get personal, I don't really care. And if it does get personal, the odds you're saying to my face are slim, so I can deal with it. But yeah, cool. No worries. Right. Well, thanks for watching or listening. Or I'm sure most people have given up now and probably fell asleep. But if anyone's left, thank you for making it to the end.